Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. So, just by an interesting conversation before this, and just by a show of hands, how many of you are afraid of AI? I knew you would be. Who loves it? I love that too, right? And how many of you actually feel like you have the tools to effectively uh, develop against and use AI for your business? Of course, you do. So, just to reiterate, my name is DJ Reali. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for the Weather Company. You'll know us as the Weather Channel brand. We're the digital and data assets. So, hopefully, you're all using the weather.com app or weather.com itself. And what a lot of you might not realize is we are founded on data. We do 400 terabytes of data processing 15 minutes every single day. And we're a large scale platform. We reach 300 million people across the globe. And so behind what we do is an enterprise business that fuels businesses across the globe, right? Thousands of businesses. 90% of executives realize and understand that weather drives their business in one way or another. So we use it as a signal, not just to understand what consumers see, but how they feel, how it changes their behavior, and how to get them to act. And so that's our platform. And it kind of brings us perfectly into the conversation that we want to have with Michael Ditter, who's the Director of AI Strategy and Emerging Technology at Diageo. So welcome, Michael. So happy to be here with you.
Thanks, DJ. Happy to be here too.
I feel like I want to get super comfy on the couch here. So you'll know Michael's brands. Some of you know Casamigos. Any fans, right?
Yeah.
Johnny Walker, Guinness, probably my
Don
favorite.
Julio,
Don
Crown,
Julio.
Kettle, Smirnoff.
What was your favorite drink at the holidays, Michael?
Like I told you at lunch, I love Guinness right now. I'm just really into Guinness. It's a great, great stout. And we also have the Guinness Zero for anyone doing dry January. Guinness Zero, less than 60 calories.
Less than 60. Oh, well, I could use the help right about now. Mine's a Kettle One Martini. It's hard to pry one of those out of my hands once you get me going, as some of my colleagues probably know. So, you do some exciting things with AI, and as we were kind of getting to know each other, there was something really interesting you did for the holidays, and you've been doing it for a little while. You want to tell the crowd here what you're up to?
Yeah, happy to. And let me just provide a bit of context first to start. This kind of dovetails in with what Paul was sharing in the opening panel. He was talking about what really cuts through and kind of like drives content that resonates. And he talked about style. And I really talk about it just like that, style and agency as kind of the two things that really cut through, right? Agency is kind of knowing what problem to solve. Kind of like what Sarah was talking about, being insight-led, knowing kind of the problem or the insight to go after to target growth. And style is kind of the uniquely human artistic element that we can add to something. And so DJ is right. I am a technically fluent AI strategist. That means I build both professionally and personally. And my Christmas card this year was a vibe-coded Christmas card. I built it in a combination workflow between ChatGPT, Claude, Replit, and 11 Labs. And so you still got a physical postcard for me, but there was a QR code on the back of the postcard that took you to my Christmas card site. When you landed on my Christmas card site, a custom, my last name's Ditter, a custom Ditter family song started playing. There was, little messages about the family. There was interactive games. And so, back to the point, and you'll hear me talk a lot about this today. I talk a lot about capability. And capability, what I mean by that is the human layer. Capability is what allows you to move from AI potential to AI performance, to distinctive growth, to competitive advantage. And so to build capability, I play both personally and professionally quite a bit. And I try to do those things with a bit of both style and agency. Now, my kids did give me a hard time on the song on the site, and so I did rewrite that, but I think overall it had a lot of agency and style.
So I have to listen to the song again, is what
You
you're
do.
telling me. Okay, we'll do that. It's very, very charming. Great work. So today we want to talk a little bit about growth. You know, some of the conversation around AI is really about experimentation, about efficiency. How can we use it to save money? What can we do to make things a little faster? But really, there are ways to improve AI ROI through the use of AI, right? So that it really changes the way consumers understand brands, right? So I know you're all in. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you're leveraging technology to create that differentiated consumer experience at Diageo.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me start with a core insight about this space. And the core insight is that the technology is there, and it's really a capability gap or a capability bottleneck. That really is the biggest opportunity, in my opinion, for most organizations today. And so at Diageo, first and foremost, we're laser focused on building the capability in our people. We've brought all of our people together for day-long immersions into the tools, how to use them, how to work with them, going through custom and bespoke workflows for marketing, like using it in brand planning, insight generation, content generation. So part of it is building the capability in our people. And then part of it is being very focused on where we spend our time and our money, candidly, as it relates to this space. And so there are a handful of use cases that if you're in the marketing domain and you manage a portfolio of iconic brands like we do at Diageo, that you should be thinking about and using AI. One of them is content generation. Content generation is certainly a use case where, again, keeping in mind what Paul said about agency and style, you can really put the tools to good work and drive kind of meaningful kind of improvement and growth. Insights. What Sarah was saying at the beginning, obviously, is another area. How many of you have tried deep research? Deep research is one of those tools. I see probably like a little bit less than a dozen hands. So if you haven't tried deep research yet, deep research is the coolest feature. So cool. It came out about 12 months ago as part of OpenAI's 12 Days of Christmas. You now have it in Gemini. You have it in Claude as well. When you think about pulling kind of relevant current insights together on kind of your consumers, deep research can mine all of Reddit. On the flight in, I was running deep research reports. One of our iconic brands is Johnny Walker. We have this great campaign behind Johnny Walker called Keep Walking. And I was running deep research on specific things that are happening in cities that might kind of be relevant for Keep Walking. And so there are so many different applications for deep research. For those who didn't raise their hand and didn't try it, it is just a checkbox. So the next time you do a prompt in ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever your preferred platform is, try turning on deep research and just see the difference of what comes back. So it's been all about capability and then leaning into a couple specific levers for growth.
So how long did that take you on the plane on the way out here today?
Not long. So I guess I didn't mention that Christmas card, that vibe-coded Christmas card. I did it on Metro North on the way to Grand Central. It took 30 minutes. I'm a father of three. I have an 8, 5, and a 3-year-old. I have no time. My life is complete chaos. And so this tool set allows me to kind of work at 10x. I mean, that's what I love about it. And I try to apply that both personally and professionally. So yeah, I kicked off that deep research on the flight over, and I was actually even then brainstorming different kind of content outputs. In this specific case, I was working on a 30-second spot, and I was creating mock-ups of what it might look like so that I could make sure that when we kicked it back to our actual production partner, because don't get me wrong, there still is a very clear role for creatives. I mean, creativity matters more than ever, right? Style matters. What's going to cut through is going to be those things that are kind of uniquely kind of creative and kind of human driven. But what it allowed me to do was to get to a place where instead of me kicking it over and kind of us going back and forth for 3 weeks, I got really clear on kind of like the spaces where I kind of thought it would and wouldn't work in terms of the particular spot, so that we could kick it over and basically get it done by a day or two from now.
So you didn't get a finished product.
Well, I got it finished enough for me to then kick it over to a creative to have them add their unique touch to it.
So it's in the previous panel, I think we heard it still takes a human.
100%.
People kind of freak out about, oh my God, AI is going to take my job, right? But really what it does is it speeds the plow. It helps us be faster, more nimble, get faster insights, and be able to action on those insights quickly in a very interesting and creative way. And it sounds like you're doing some great stuff with Johnny Walker.
Yeah, I think, DJ, that's a great point. The future is going to be one, I think, that favors AI-enabled marketers. It's not kind of, taking away the craft. It's, changing the work that we do. And that's actually why capability is so important. This is not a one-for-one replacement. And so when you think about kind of building capability in this kind of unique human layer that sits in here, there's so much to understanding how the work was getting done, and then just having a bit of humility and patience to play and try and fail and keep at something until you yourself have kind of like really understood how to do it. You've gone hands-on, you've kind of figured it out, and you've kind of worked with your stakeholders, brand marketers, planners, media planners to deliver the output.
I think that's exactly right. So, consumer behavior is really changing a lot because of and driven by a lot of this technology. What kind of signals do you trust the most as you're working to deploy an AI?
One of the things that I think is so powerful about the age that we live in right now, I mean, it really is one of the most exciting times. What makes it so exciting, if you're an enterprise, for instance, that has deployed ChatGPT for enterprise, you can take a variety of the signals that you might be working with. Let's say you've always thought like, oh gosh, if only I had one version of the truth. If only I could take my like market consumer takeaway signal. So like what's coming off the cash register, and I could combine that with real first party consumer intelligence, and I could combine that maybe with weather data, and I could maybe combine that with outlet data and other sales data. We live in a world right now where you could do that. You as an individual in something like ChatGPT for enterprise could take subsets of those data and work through it and figure out for yourself, I'm getting outcome that's a little bit different than I expected. I don't know exactly how to interpret it when I'm getting this message here and that message there. And so I think for me, so much of the joy of kind of operating and working in this space has been discovery like that. It's been playing with different data sets and kind of seeing what is possible, how we can kind of get to recommendations faster, land the insight faster. The work that I was doing on the plane today, it started with me reviewing all of the consumer research on Keep Walking. Diageo is the world's leading spirits company. We are a powerhouse of innovation and insight. But that insight library is way too robust for me to kind of digest all of that. But with AI, I can pull that in, and I can start from a very robust place.
I think that's exactly right. So, you mentioned something interesting about third-party data sets, and thank you for the shameless plug for weather. We love that. We do a lot to develop predictive insights for consumers that actually create a high level of performance on campaigns. We've seen accelerated ROI, ROAS between 10 and 20%, and sometimes even more than that, depending upon the instances, by just harnessing the data, coupling up the data sets, and making it useful in the form of targeting and applying it to not only media planning and activation, but creative, development, right? Your DCO can, really be enhanced by what's going on with these third-party signals. Super important. What do you think the most important thing about a third-party signal is? I gave you the answer at lunch.
So for me, so much of how I look at this space, and maybe just for context to set the scene. So I'm a boomerang at Diageo. This is my second tour of duty. The first time I was at Diageo, I was the head of strategy. And when I sat in that seat, I had the great privilege of being able to build one of the first advanced analytics teams in the spirits industry. And that advanced analytics team was taking in third-party data alongside our internal sales data, alongside census data, alongside things like Nielsen or consumer takeaway data. And it was the early days of predictive analytics. It was the early days of bringing those different data sets together to say, okay, here is where we think we have latent potential. Here's a store where we think kind of a brand that currently isn't in distribution in that store could do particularly well. You then take that same kind of insight on kind of where there is latent potential, and you can pipe it through things like kind of how you're placing your media, and use that to much more effectively kind of like place and kind of target your media in the right spots, and really drive growth and savings at the same time.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to unlock hidden potential, right? We know that consumers buy ice cream in the summer, right? And I'm sure they buy a lot of alcohol in the summer too. But we know that we can discover new seasonality by using some of the interesting data that we uncover. So how do you actually measure whether it's driving ROI and not adding complexity to your campaign? Does AI actually overpromise in marketing in any instance in your mind?
So let me tell you what I think is the number one important metric right now when you think about kind of AI in the modern marketing organization. I think the thing that most organizations should be looking at is adoption of AI. How much kind of daily active use of AI do I have across my employee population? Because so much of kind of achieving, accelerating, building differentiated strategic competitive advantage, I think is going to come down to those who first build the capability in the organization. And so the first metric I actually look at is how many people are using our AI tools each day. And that's personally what I hold myself accountable to, is building a robust enough capability where I have an organization full of active, engaged users. Because it's only, just imagine this, DJ. Let's say rewind 30 years, okay? 30 years back. What year is that? That's 1995. Let's go 40 years back, 1985. We used to pass manila envelopes around the office, right? And then like one or two people got emails. And like, do you think you were creating a lot of value when you were the only guy or gal sending email? No. But when everyone in the organization started using email or Excel or PowerPoint, that fundamentally changed how we did our work. And so I think the same thing is true here. And the way you're going to get ahead at first is by building robust capability in your people. And you're going to know you have a robust capability in your people when you have a bunch of active users. And with a bunch of active users, you're then going to start unlocking a whole bunch of new use cases. And so yes, I mean, we obviously measure things like ROI, driving an improvement in CPMs. I mean, we've seen in terms of where we've focused in content, in kind of how we use AI to kind of target more specifically, we've seen incredible gains, and that's why we're still focused on those things. But first and foremost, know that capability, I think, is the central thing to focus on.
So thank you for aging me on the stage.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
It's funny, I worked at J. Walter Thompson a long time ago in the media department, and our chief creative director at the time, Nina DeSessa, was thinking about email. And she said, okay, we're going to get email for everybody. And people were like, oh, what? Okay. And then nobody used the email at all. Nobody sent an email. And so one day she sent around an email that said, if you don't start using this email, you're going to be fired. And everybody started using email, but it's really about adoption, right? It's about adoption of the technology. So how do you actually find the right people to, explore and to think about the capabilities and what the possibilities are?
The other hidden message in kind of what you were sharing there is you had leadership buy-in, right? You had leadership kind of leading by example. And that is incredibly important, right? This is a leadership opportunity. We all should be leaning into this modern tool set and using it and deploying it. It's not just for an analyst. No one is below building, and it's so easy, right? I talked about some of the tools that you're probably all familiar with, like ChatGPT and Claude. But if you're not checking out the what's clinically known as like the vibe coding set of platforms, whether it's Replit or Bolt or Lovable or Cursor, those things are so easy to use today. Like that Christmas card, like it's a ChatGPT workflow. It kind of you get all the text and then you just paste it in, and it creates it. So first and foremost, it's a leadership opportunity. It's leading by example. But then you're right. I mean, talent, how we think about talent, is incredibly important, right? I said, and it's probably clear already how excited I am about this space. But what's so interesting is, roles are blurring, and I've always kind of had this this career where I've kind of been a jack of all trades, more or less, right? As a strategist, that's kind of what you expect, more or less. And it's so exciting to kind of be in this space where, for instance, if you were previously a brand marketer or a media planner, like you can't really say, oh, I'm just going to leave that for the creatives. No, like you now live in a world where you can riff and ideate like what it is that you're trying to do in that Johnny Walker campaign. I mean, if I'm doing it on the flight over, it's something that all of us can do. And that talent profile is changing, roles are blurring, and so you want people who are humble, first and foremost, that show empathy, right? Because this is a space that requires a good bit of empathy, and then people who aren't afraid of kind of failing and trying again, who aren't afraid of taking risk. You're not going to break these things. It's a lot of fun, honestly, at the end of the day.
So you're telling me that I shouldn't just look at my coworker and say, can you talk to ChatGPT for me and see what it comes up with? I should actually try it myself.
I mean, you can, but you could also just turn on voice mode in your AI and it would feel like you're talking to a coworker. And that's what I love, is like, it gives me a first pass, like, way to kind of pressure test something. It's the stuff that I would always take to my team when I led strategy. I had a team of strategy managers. The questions I would ask, the quick analysis, I now can just do all of that myself right at my fingertips. Now, again, there is still a huge role for humans, right? That's the point that Paul made. That's the point that I'm making up front. Agency and style still is what's going to cut through, and that's something uniquely human agency, finding the right problem style, the uniquely human way you deliver it.
Yeah, I think that's super important. And, humanism is not going away from our business
No.
anytime soon. I think that's one of the great qualities that you talk about here today is that you've got technological expertise, you're excited about it, but you're also a human being. And it does take that to coach and train a team on how to use these tools. And whether we actually have a club that gets together, I don't know if it's a club, but to talk and kind of spitball with each other about how to use AI, what they're doing in their particular disciplines, what ideas they can come up with to do better things. We've been developing with AI and forecasting and creative development and weather targeting, all of these things in our purview use AI and very readily today. So we're pretty excited about that. And I agree with you. I think, too, it's almost like raising a child, which I have zero experience at, but you kind of have to take them by the hand first, right? You do a little hand holding, and then at the end of the day, you can just push them off the cliff or out the door, right? And let them fly. And I think they get really excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the humility and empathy comes in. It's having the empathy to kind of know where someone's coming from. I mean, this is a space where there's a lot of preconceived notions. I mean, you said it, is AI coming for my job? There's a lot of people that think that. And so you got to come in with a good bit of empathy and humility. And then, if you think an agent can do that, well, roll up your sleeves and try it. Because it probably would take you less than 15 minutes.
So let's talk a little bit about the future, right? What do you think the next gen approaches to using AI for marketing are?
Well, first, let me say this. 6'7" for anyone who has kids is so 2025. I do not want to hear that again. So as we move into 2026 and look towards the future, listen, I think the modern tool set is starting to take shape a bit, right? We have kind of the chat platforms, like I've mentioned. We have some of the vibe coding platforms. We have some pretty impressive image and video models, like Google's Nano Banana for image. Their video VEO3 is incredible. And so I think a key skill to start working on as a marketer is mastering and playing in this kind of modern tool set. Because I think just like, if you're a marketer and I said, do you use Excel? Everybody would raise their hand. Do you use PowerPoint? Everybody would raise their hand. I think the tool set that I'm talking about, something like the vibe coding tool set, this is not just to build websites. When people say, oh, Mike, you're building a website? No, I built a scavenger hunt for someone to find my white elephant Christmas present. I built a scoreboard to track some family Winter Olympics. So these aren't just building sites, they're visualizing ideas, things that you would put on a whiteboard or that you would, drag around in PowerPoint boxes. I think, I made reference to the fact that I have kids. I think, when my kids are, working and of adult age, they're going to be besides themselves that would drag PowerPoint boxes around or touch cells in Excel and write formulas. It's going to be like the cavemen banging rocks together. So the modern marketer should be playing with and kind of experimenting with this modern new tool set.
I think that's exactly right. And I think everybody's excited, especially the crew in this room today, about using AI and exploring the next generation of it. There's a lot of innovation that can happen here. I do recall a day when I had an actual, I hate to say the word out loud, not PC, secretary, that actually folded up paper in a typewriter to type numbers in a box to create a presentation that she would shrink down on a copy machine to deliver to our clients. We've come a long way, certainly, from that. But I think still the AI needs to be fed. You need to maintain the data sets. You need to maintain the prompts and the protocols. And I think you're doing a great job at Diageo. So it's been super exciting to be here today with you on stage. I want to thank you for sharing this time with us and your insights. I want to thank Brand Innovators for having us up on stage today. I'm a little bit hoarse. Apologies. It's the desert air. And have a great CES.
Thank you, DJ. This was wonderful. You're a great moderator, and thank you, Brand Innovators. Appreciate it.